Okay, thank you very much, Johan. I was also this morning at your lecture, also as the audience, some new faces for me. Welcome again, Saras Sarasvathy. And take your mic if you would be so nice. So otherwise, everything is also recorded and everything.
I'm not sure this is on.
Now it's on.
Yeah.
Okay. So this morning you gave a lecture about sustainability. What a difficult word in English. Sustainability and entrepreneurship. It was very inspiring also for me. To start with the question, do sustainability and entrepreneurship go together? Not only in America, you told us about the lots of interviews you had with expert entrepreneurs, but we also can tell something about the situation in Europe, for instance.
You tell me.
Ah,
I talked not only US, I brought in China, I brought in Africa, I brought in India.
okay.
South America, if you want to go there, we can go there. But Europe, you tell me.
Yeah. It's different, in my opinion. I talk a lot with entrepreneurs, especially in the Netherlands, but also in Greece. And this kind of thinking, the effectuation thinking, I have a question about it, if it lands already enough in our home country, the Netherlands. But perhaps there are also Dutch people in the audience. Can someone tell something about it, what he or she's opinion is about it? I'm looking at the audience.
I do know that the largest, in terms of proportions of interest in effectuation research and sustainability research, I think Europe is like high on the list, right? That's why the effectuation conference is in Europe all the time. So I was just making fun of you asking for it, but I would love to hear more stories.
Yeah.
I love to hear wherever I go, I learn from the place I am in. Yeah.
We are listening to you.
You asked about effectuation, and what I learned when I heard your story this morning is that I think a lot of people over here are using effectuation, and they are aware of the fact that they are using effectuation. And this morning it became clear to me that I do it a lot, and now I know how it works. You visualized it for me.
Yeah. Now I've just given you a name for it.
Yeah. Not whole day, but sometimes, most of the times, when I think of models, this is also a model. So is that a good answer to your question?
Every answer is a good answer.
Thank you.
So now it's a little bit clear for the Dutch situation. And in Holland we talk about MKB. I will try to say it in English, the middle and small companies.
Yeah.
I think also that in these kind of companies, do you agree, this kind of thinking, effectuation thinking is already landed? But at the big enterprises, the director of the RSA also asked a question about it. Is he also in the audience? I don't know. For sure. Yeah, in the back. he's looking. He's sitting there and thinking, oh, don't ask me.
Don't pull me into this.
Yeah. So if I say it not in a proper way, please correct me. You asked the question, does it also, this effectuation function, does it also concern the bigger companies? Do I say it right?
No, that's what I asked today in the beginning. So
Okay.
the question was, is effectuation only applicable for larger companies? And the answer was no, it's actually a model that actually fits, I think, multiple entrepreneurship cases. So that part was clear. But I do have a question now that I have to pay attention anyway. And how far does this model also say something about the characterization of people? So is this applicable? Is this a skill? Is this a model that's applicable as a research model, which I understand, and there are certain skills and attitudes that actually come with this model, but does it actually fit every person? So is this teachable, or is there a certain kind of type of person, a characterization of a person that actually this fits better to than to other ones? That would be my question.
Is it nature or nurture?
Yeah.
Perhaps that's the question.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer all of it.
All of it?
Because I heard 3 questions.
You told us we had till midnight this evening.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
So the first thing I want to tell you is that the first book on corporate effectuation was written in Dutch by Thomas Blackman, right? So of course it's applicable in corporations, and I know that because a Dutch guy wrote the book on it. Also I have two colleagues, German-speaking colleagues, one from Germany, one from Austria. Rene, I believe, is here working with the PhD students, Rene Mauer and Michael Faschenbauer, and they have been training people in Europe to work with large corporations to bring effectuation into the new product development, including sustainable initiatives within large organizations. They have worked with Siemens and several other companies, and they have a group of people who they have trained who are working with other companies as well. So this is just to bring the information about the applicability to larger companies on this front, but also to cover the ground of larger companies being sustainable, from that perspective. So I was trying to address that issue. And I'll come to the characters as well, but Ruud has something to say. Yes.
Yeah, we also talk a lot about companies
Yeah.
in connection with this effectuation, in connection with entrepreneurship. But entrepreneurship, and Johan told already, he used the name entrepreneurship, but I call them also entrepreneurs. You can be entrepreneur also in a large firm.
Yes.
Sometimes you call them change makers, or you have other words for it.
Mhm.
So all kinds of effectuation, all kinds of entrepreneurship fit to all kinds of people.
Yeah.
And I dare you to find several job questions where sort of entrepreneurship is not asked for their people. And I think it's used all. And certainly companies ask all a certain type of entrepreneurial behavior.
Yeah. And that also begins to get us to think about the characteristics and what is taught and all of those kinds of things. So let me address that and also build on what you're saying. So like Johan was saying, not everybody is an entrepreneur, and I would argue that they don't know it, which is Ruud's point, right?
So everyone is an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Let me explain that, and then I'll also do the characteristic thing. So imagine this. Imagine a world in which there are no jobs. Once upon a time it was that way, and we are headed that way with AI. What will people do? So the default option for all human beings is actually entrepreneurship, right? To somehow create something of value, either exchange it with people or sell it. That is where all of the economic productivity comes from. It could be that we are headed toward a world where we don't have to do that anymore because a lot of the things are just produced by robots or something.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean we are not going to be entrepreneurial. Why? Because we will still produce music, humor, we'll produce sports, entertainment, I don't know, fight clubs, whatever it may be, which we will then want other people to enjoy. And doesn't matter, if you don't have to work for a living, you still want people to listen to your music, right? And entrepreneurship comes in that way. So entrepreneurship is, and this is where the larger idea here is not about just starting a company. It's about entrepreneurship as a method, which is as large as the scientific method. And the scientific method allows us to understand nature and help our knowledge, help us to achieve our existing goals and purposes. Science doesn't necessarily tell us what our goals should be. But the entrepreneurial method actually allows us to co-create new things worth pursuing, whether we actually need to make a living at it or not, because that is a very human enterprise. But the idea that we have been working on entrepreneurship is really not only about in today's world, starting a company is the most productive, most useful way it shows up, but it can be used for much larger than that, right? So that's the first thing. So I always say entrepreneurship is the default option when all else fails, right? Something goes wrong in life and you have to move and your career doesn't work for you anymore. You have to get entrepreneurial because you have to figure out some other way to make meaning, to make value, and to get other people to see value and meaning in the things that you find.
Is it?
So that is my first thing on that.
No. I'm not satisfied.
Yeah, okay. Shall we let him speak?
Yes.
Okay, Arian, go for it. I'm
Yes.
still trying to answer the question.
Is it a sort of new definition of the term entrepreneurship?
Yes.
To say the context right. That's why I'm asking it.
So,
You said entrepreneurship is the default option.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is a new kind of definition of the
Correct.
term entrepreneurship.
correct.
Okay.
I'm defining entrepreneurial.
Otherwise, I'm not
as a-
getting it.
It's like was science a new term defined by, Francis Bacon? Not really.
Okay.
Like we had it, the Arabs had it way before, Democritus had it.
Okay.
It's defined that way in the OECD report written by Martin McCabe. It's wide entrepreneurship.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, absolutely. So now, I mean, as a field, we are converging on a larger definition than just starting companies. Yes.
So, you asked 3 questions. So the first one you had already. That's what I thought.
Yes.
To get you a little bit by the lesson.
So do you want me to tell his question?
So, what kind of question?
He asked a question about are there certain kinds of people
Yeah, I
and
know.
their characteristics. Do you
And
want
if
me to
it,
take that?
and if it's teachable.
Yeah, it's basic.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it is teachable, is an easy one.
Ah, okay.
What do you think I am going to say? I'm making a living at this. So my answer is going to be biased, right? Not exactly, because I remember I have been an entrepreneur. So my default option is always to go out and make $1 billion. So I'm not worried about that. But the interesting thing when you think about is it teachable? That's also the reason I compare it to the scientific method, right? For a long time, we did not think science was teachable, right? We thought either that it's a hobby of very rich people collecting star charts or whatever, or we thought there are these people who can just read the signs of nature, or get divine revelation. That's where knowledge came from. But now we know better that there is a method and we can teach it to everybody, like from 5 years onwards. And some of those people will actually become scientists. But the capability is not in question. So this effort in entrepreneurship research is also the effort to say what is actually teachable and how can we teach it and how can we teach it better. And we are converging on this idea of teaching entrepreneurship to everyone, not just to potential entrepreneurs. With science, we got lucky. Imagine if 200 years ago, when people read Novum Organum by Francis Bacon, if they had decided that we should teach science only to scientists, and the way we measure science education is how many of them actually invented stuff, and then how many of them won the Nobel Prize, right? We would never even have seen any of the progress of the 19th and 20th centuries if we had done it that way. Luckily for us, we just taught it to everybody. We didn't know what people would use it for. And then voila, we have, little iPhones in our hand, we walk around, right? I think that is the same revolution that's going to happen with entrepreneurship. And I have a little bit of evidence. This year is particularly exciting for me, so I want to share this with you because we had this kind of conversation in Denmark several years ago. I actually got to work with a commerce secretary in Denmark, and I don't know what they did. My colleagues did. I helped, I hope. But in 2005, they passed a reform requiring entrepreneurship to be taught K through 12. Of course, who's going to teach it? This is not an easy thing to do top down. It took 3 years for them to implement something called entrepreneurship. I don't know what it is. It's just one course that everybody has to go through. But it also means that we have data on every single child in Denmark year after year since 2008. So we have the before and after data. And one of my colleagues, who is a wonderful econometrician, Christian Nielsen, and another colleague of his, we analyzed the data. And this year, we actually published the very first nationwide study of the impact of entrepreneurship education in early school, primary school and secondary school. So just happy to know that this is actually making progress not only in our just in the research circles but also in policy circles and in the world. So just want to share that. So I do believe that I'm not saying every single thing can always be taught, but there's way more that can be taught than people think is possible. And I'll try to answer the last one very quickly about the traits of entrepreneurs. The truth is, there are as many ventures possible in the world as there are people, right? So the issue is not, do you need to have a certain set of characteristics in order to build a successful venture, whether the venture is for profit or it's a large organization, doesn't matter to do this. That's why I call it venture rather than a company. The issue really is what kind of great venture can you build, given who you are, right? What you know and whom you know. So given your characteristics. So if you want a very quick analogy, you think about this, that both the optimist and the pessimist can be great inventors. The optimist invents the airplane, the pessimist invents the parachute. Right? And so that's beautiful about entrepreneurship. And for years now, I've gone around and told people, you tell me that combination of personality types, life circumstances, and I give you the story of a successful venture built by a person with those characteristics and those circumstances. And now I have thousands of colleagues who have collected a lot of these stories. So I will stand by it. So I would say anybody who says, I don't have the personality to be an entrepreneur, I will say, unless you are so, introvert that you cannot stand even one other human being, and I don't see how you can survive, at least you must have put up with your mother. But the fact is, all you need to do is to find one other person who is okay dealing with other people. And then if you find a co-founder who can stand working with other people, you can still start a venture. So the only minimal requirement, if you want, is whether you're okay with working with someone. That's the only thing that you have to worry about. So I think I've answered everything. Where's my cookie?
Is that the right answer? I'm asking, you ask the questions.
I'm not sure if this is about right or wrong, but it is an answer that actually is, I understand.
There's no right or wrong.
Yeah, I couldn't care less whether he thinks it's right or wrong. Advantages of being a full professor. You don't have to take another exam ever.
So, luckily there's also humor in entrepreneurship. That's great. But
I love questions. Whether I have an answer or not, I will try.
yeah, okay. Now I have a question on my screen. Which of the effectuation principles do you believe aligns most strongly with the development of sustainable business models, and why?
Okay, good question.
Yeah.
I would still have to say both Crazy Quilt and Pilot in the Plane, for the simple reason that you cannot do this alone, right? I cannot be sustainable by myself, right? So we have to work together, and all of us have to make commitments to the cause without knowing whether it will actually work out or not, right? So there's a lot of unknown. So Crazy Quilt is really, really important. And of course, we have to, whether we have evidence or not, we have to believe that what we do will make a difference. So Pilot in the Plane is important too.
Okay.
With all big problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a good answer. I think you also told that in your research you talked in the United States with 35, do I say it right? Expert entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Tomorrow it came by, but in a short way, what in your opinion is an expert entrepreneur?
So I defined it. I don't mind defining it again. Empirically, right, for the sake of the study, I defined this as people with 15 or more full-time 15 or more years full-time immersive experience starting and running multiple ventures, including successes and failures. So the way you want to think about it is somebody who has done it for a long time, but has been through every possible experience that entrepreneurship can offer you. That's how I defined it empirically. for that. But now, when we want to think about, we can go beyond that definition, and we can, and other people have done that. And so now, family business, small business, international business, social ventures, and now people, for example, one of the papers published a few years ago was how Picasso and Braque created Cubism as a movement using effectuation principles. This was a historic study.
Okay.
So we now have studies of things that go way beyond any kind of venture that we might think normally, whether for profit or non-profit.
And you said Picasso?
And Braque, they
And-
co-created the Cubism movement.
And what are the conclusions, if you know?
They just trace historically all the steps they took, the people they met, and they mapped what they did onto the effectual process.
Aha.
That's what the study did. I can give you the link to the study for sure.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it is
Because they-
fascinating. I mean, it's not something I would have imagined even.
Because they were artists, painters, builders.
Yeah, and they were just building a movement in art, right?
Okay. So, as an example, it is not only for profit companies, also for artistic companies, writers, songwriters, musicians.
Yes.
The same principles are going also on that kind
Yes.
of
And there is another study that looked at the First Nations in Canada, the Tokuat Nation in particular, and they show how at the level of the community they are effectuating.
Aha.
So there is no single entrepreneur at all. The community itself is acting effectually to not only to just survive in the modern world, but to keep their values intact while figuring out financial independence. So there are and also dealing with things like healthcare. So there's another study, all published by people who have done their own research on this.
Okay.
Yes.
You said 15 years of experience. And 15
Minimum, yeah.
And in your research, you talked about successes and failures.
Yes.
Most people like to tell about their successes, but in what way were those entrepreneurs really open to you about their failures?
This is very good. First of all, I remember Rude, you said it in your video, right? You either succeed or you learn. Right? There is no such thing.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You either succeed or you learn.
Yeah.
So
And then
there's
you
no
are-
failure.
It's
So-
Saras says there's no failure.
Yeah, it's not the question of whether there is failure or not, right? The first mistake we make in a lot of entrepreneurship research, and I've seen in like policy papers, things like that, people are confusing venture failure or venture success with entrepreneur failure or entrepreneur success. So think about this way, right? You can fail in a couple of ventures and still be a successful entrepreneur. In fact, I would say the surest predictor of success in the case of an entrepreneur is how you fail and how you deal with failure of the venture. They're two completely separate things. For those of you who are mathematically inclined, you can say, what is the failure rate? People are always talking about, let me ask you, what is the failure rate? Out of 100 ventures that start, how many will succeed? What do you think? Pardon?
5.
5? Any other numbers?
10.
10? Okay.
2.
5, 10, 2, going once, going twice. At that junction, yeah. The standard number you will hear in the media is 9 out of 10 will fail. And that number comes from venture capital. Venture capital, even in the US, which has the largest venture capital industry, funds only 1/100th of 1% of companies. So we are taking that data and then we are saying 9 out of 10 ventures will fail everywhere. Well, now OECD has wonderful data and we have data from the US and India as well. They all support that when you look at all companies, not just venture-backed companies, about half of the companies are around 8 years or later. Of the half of the companies that are gone, 1/3 of them were profitable at the time they exited. So now you begin to think, and then you look how many of them actually go bankrupt in bankruptcy court? 1 out of 10. So all the numbers we talk about are all messed up. Then on top of that, if you add, so whatever you believe about the probability of failure of a venture. Now ask yourself, what is the probability of failure or success of an entrepreneur? Remember, they are two different set of numbers altogether. And you see very quickly that entrepreneurs don't have to fail. Most entrepreneurs might start one venture and the venture doesn't succeed, or they just get a better job offer, or their spouse threatens to leave them, or whatever, they will exit, right? But most successful entrepreneurs, if you look, they've always been through a couple of failures and outlived those failures. So this thing about failure and success, we really want to be very careful about how we talk about it, especially as educators. Now let me just say one more thing, and then I will, and that is, as teachers, now think about life itself as an entrepreneurial journey, right? We want to teach people to not confuse failures of particular projects or particular things in our life with being a failure. Failure should not become an identity, right? So I always tell people, no matter all the failures, that's why I love Ruud's little quote on, you either succeed or you learn. That is for life, not only for venturing. But it's great that it's true for venturing as well,
Can I steal that quote?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
I just stole it, didn't I?
I stole it from a student in Riga, which I teach once.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Stolen from me. So.
And by the way, for those of you who are interested in it, Christian and I wrote a full chapter looking at all these different success failure rates and making this argument, and that chapter is available if you want.
Yeah, maybe one thing about this, because here in Europe,
Yeah,
for example in the Netherlands,
yeah,
but also certainly in Germany,
yeah,
failure, stopping something,
yeah,
stopping a business is
Yeah.
a failure, and it is actually also a stigma.
yeah,
So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
So this is very important for us, the Europeans, and also here in the Netherlands, to really learn this thing.
yeah.
You can fail on something, but
Yeah.
then you can never learn.
Absolutely. It's partly the individual fear, and I tell, as an entrepreneur, I'll tell you, with all the wisdom and everything that I have, failure tastes bad, right? Literally, it's awful when things go wrong. So I will not deny that. So the fear of failure in individuals is perfectly understandable, but this is why we need to educate everybody on entrepreneurship, right? So to overcome stigma of failure, we cannot change culture without educating people on thinking about these things very deeply, and that's where we need to go because with a little bit of change in culture is amazing. Like like we were talking about, where were we talking about this? I think at the Effectuation conference of celebrating failure, right? That we need to celebrate failure. And there are companies and there are organizations in the US that actually do that. They ask you in interviews and they take it seriously. And it's also very interesting to look at the data. What happened to entrepreneurs who have actually failed in a venture in the US versus in other places? That's also an interesting study.
I'm thinking about it. So every company in the Netherlands, looking at changing culture, also a school company, has to introduce a department of great failures. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that, I'm saying you have to embrace even awful, stinky failures, not just great failures.
Okay.
It's all part of being human and part of learning.
Of course, yeah. But
It has also to do with how we deal with students that don't pass exams.
yes.
Yeah.
And I use the word don't pass, not fail.
Yeah.
Don't pass.
If they don't pass the exams, how do you as schools deal with those students?
Yes. And then you said don't pass, and I didn't.
He
Instead
doesn't
of-
say they failed.
Ah,
He says we want to say they didn't pass, and I would say they didn't pass yet.
okay. That's another way of looking at it.
Yes.
Okay. So let's do it as we sit here.
Sure.
If you look at your circle of influence, as Kofi always said, do it in your own influence.
Yes.
Okay, very nice. Tomorrow you also talked about the K framework. In my opinion, it goes a little bit fast, but you had about effectual in this quarter.
Yeah.
Is that the most effective way to change things in companies? If I can say it right, the question.
Is that the most effective way? I do not know. I do not have evidence to say it is the most effective way.
There's a high
Um,
control and a low prediction.
yeah. No, all I'm trying to say is if you look at the 4 quadrants
Mhm.
and you think about what is useful when. For example, like what Google and other companies are doing right now, right? They're just mopping up everybody who has any AI talent, right? So either the AI technologist has to be an entrepreneur and start a company, or the mid-sized companies cannot hire anybody because they're just simply. So now, is that a good, effective? That's hopefully not an effectual way of operating, right? It's a very causal way of doing things, but is it effective? Probably.
That's the question.
Yeah. So it depends on effective for whom. For Google, sure. As of now, they have the cash; they can do that. But is it effective for society as a whole? Is it effective for the technologists? I'm not convinced. So my answer there would be I don't quite know whether any particular quadrant is always effective, but it depends on effective for whom. All I can say is for the person who's trying to do something new, trying to make like small groups of people who are trying to make big change in the world, the effectual quadrant is very, very effective for the simple reason that you don't have to be a genius. The process itself gets you innovation, and you invest no more than you can afford to lose. So in that sense, it's very effective.
Okay. One question about this, or if the audience has a question about it, please ask. High control. Control, then I think, can I be creative, innovative, if there's too much control for which is laid down from the management? Or do I interpret the term control in a...
I'm glad you asked this question. It is a source of confusion for sure, because people always think control is about control over outcomes. But in the K framework, control is a strategy, not an outcome, right? You use prediction in order to get control over your outcomes. But you can use control itself in order to get control over your outcomes, right? Where control a strategy, high control in that quadrant means I'm mostly relying on things within my control. I'm not relying on prediction.
And as a person?
Personal and also as a group. Whoever, me and my stakeholders, whoever is coming on board, slowly that what is within our control increases, right?
Not top down with dashboards
No.
and other things.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good to know, because I was a little bit confused about
I have written a lot of things that confuse a lot of people, including me sometimes when I read. So these are good questions.
Okay. Does someone have a question for Saras?
Was here one, maybe?
Yeah.
I had a question about failure before, because when I think sometimes I think that we romanticize failure a bit, because once you're an entrepreneur, once you have a venture, you have loans, etc. If you fail, that is a disaster, right? You lose your income, you need to repay the banks or wherever you have money from. So
Not if you build for affordable loss.
not even though, because you can fail that is not in your control. For instance, an accountant did a mistake and all of a sudden you have to repay a lot of taxes. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a concrete, real example.
Sure.
So we should
And
not,
fraud. Yeah.
So we should not romanticize failure.
Yeah.
If you say that there's a difference between entrepreneurial failure and venture failure, right?
Correct.
Venture failure is much more risky, and we should teach entrepreneurs that how do you minimize that risk
Correct.
by, for instance, not becoming a venture too early, by experiment to see what works, and once you have, for instance, large customers, then you can incorporate. How do you view those types of failures, and how can we train to avoid a big, failure at the venture level?
So in effect, what I've learned from the expert entrepreneurs in thinking effectually is really always assume failure, right? The affordable loss principle is what happens if I do this and it doesn't work out in every decision, not just, and the same way in every stakeholder. When you get somebody on board, you don't want to take responsibility entirely for their behavior, right? So you have to think, how do you create an organization where people actually take responsibility for the downside as well as for the upside. So that and those are not easy things to do. I can give you examples of how expert entrepreneurs do it. But the idea is failure is always an option. in general, when you hear the media, including very successful entrepreneurs, will tell you failure is not an option, right? Because one way or the other, we are going to succeed is what they are saying. Whereas the really experienced will tell you, failure is always an option, right? You fail all the time. And so the issue really is how do you minimize that and how do you outlive each one of them? So you don't always try to avoid. First thing is make sure you distribute it among multiple people, which is what the investors do as well. It's a kind of a portfolio thing. So people have to take ownership of the downside as well as the upside. So for example, if the accountant made a mistake and you owe taxes, right, you want to set up the relationship with the accountant in such a way that they have got to pay for it too, right? And that's the whole idea. So how a deal structure is something I teach a lot in the class, right? It's one thing to have the commitment from the self-selected stakeholder, and then you have to structure the deals, and then you have to manage the relationship. So there's a lot more there to be taught. So it's not about romanticizing failure, but it is also not about always avoiding. So again, you think about it. There are many ways we can think about failure. Avoiding is just one strategy. So that's the way I tell them. Otherwise, people are always just, look at Kahneman and Tversky's work. It's a fundamental thing of an evolved human species that loss aversion, losing $5 hurts way more than gaining for the joy of gaining $5. So that's why we need to bend the thing the other way in teaching. No, don't romanticize failure, but also do not emphasize nothing but avoidance. That's what we need to do. We need to walk that balance in teaching.
I don't think we should teach avoidance. I'm just saying that they are risk prone already. They're taking huge risks. But how to help them, for instance, to create a
I wouldn't say they're taking huge risks. Why should they take huge risks?
But I believe in something. I will do it. I will do whatever it takes to do something, right?
Okay, don't be that visionary is my first advice.
It's a belief base, right? You're believing in something that
Nope, I would say do not believe it because you are narrowing down your world very quickly. So this is why we do that. That's why you contrast them. Teach them that if you're taking the visionary path, then you're taking a huge risk. But there is another path you can take. You don't have to be a visionary. You can take the effectual path where you do not have to say at any cost I will get that done. Because there are two different strategies. You have a choice. If you want to be a visionary, be visionary. And then in which case, chances are very low you're going to succeed and chances are very high, the risk is going to kill you. But there are other paths.
Can I ask another question? What is then the role of vision in the effectual logic?
The role of vision is actually that vision has to be a result of the crazy quilt of people who have all put together whatever they are willing to risk. And the vision comes out of that. And then you get to a point where you actually build product, you have a market, everything, and things are becoming very predictable. At that time, you can solidify your vision. Vision is not the starting point in effectuation.
Can I make a small remark?
Yes.
Without a mic. I think that we talk about entrepreneurship, but you use it in relationships.
Yes.
And they should use it more in The Hague while creating.
There is a group in Washington DC that has developed peace protocols using effectuation.
When you do it with effectuation, you put the principles aside, and then step by step, instead of, no, I don't do that, no, I do this. So
that's also the problem with starting with some kind of vision or a very strong position because it just gets harder to move.
Yeah, so I suggest you go a few days to The Hague.
Just say when. I'm looking for new frontiers.
No problem, sir. We can introduce you. We'll make some phone calls this afternoon.
Some self-selected stakeholders, I am there.
New business idea.
Good suggestion.
Yeah, probably completely different question. If we like Effectuation to study immigrant entrepreneurship, I mean, in Europe or in Sweden or I mean in this, and that's mostly their communities and mostly they're really not really integrated. So how would I apply as a researcher or as a teacher for immigrants,
and
refugees, for example?
Absolutely. Here, Rene and his colleagues have actually worked with the refugee entrepreneurs in Europe, and I have two other colleagues who are doing research on that in France. They are all scholars who have contributed to effectuation literature. So I will put you in touch with them as well. And they have found this, Rene's work especially looked at this issue. When you are living in a refugee camp, or you're living in an immigrant community, and you're in a new culture, in a new society where you don't understand a lot of it, how does Crazy Quilt work? Right? So he's asked a specific question, and he's found techniques of how some people are able to make relationships outside their community and outside their refugee camps, and some people are not. So that he's looking at real strategies at the ground level on how these immigrant entrepreneurs do it. And the idea is we should be bringing that to when we have all these training programs for migrant entrepreneurship, we can bring those stories and those case studies and things like that. So the principles are still the same, but how exactly it works inside the context of a refugee camp is different. And so you have to go to the particular story. Does that help? Did I answer the question? Definitely, there are 2 or 3 really lovely studies that I can point to on this.
Okay, great.
I just want to add that the case I presented in the Effectuation conference on Monday, it's on the migrant entrepreneur living in Germany, and all of his journey is effectual, and he even knew that my journey is effectual. And when we heard his story in detail and everything, all of the decisions he made and everything he did in all journey of, I think, 30 years, starting from 1994 till 2025, 2024, everything is 100% effectual. And it's a long story, but he started with less than $100, and he's now making, I think, 40,000 euros a month, or maybe 2 months. He's making, I didn't exactly remember the numbers, but he's making very good amount of money, and his journey is effectuation.
Okay.
And there is also USAID did a report on youth entrepreneurship programs in really poor parts of the world, or in urban areas where there are at-risk youth and immigrant entrepreneurs, and they have incorporated effectuation training, and there is a report on how they are training people. So that is one of the reasons people know this, because that information is also out there on how to do some of these things. So I forgot to mention that. So when you mentioned the story, I remembered that.
Is it the right answer for you at this moment? Okay, very nice. I don't know why, but this crazy quilt thing is one of the 5 ways to get more effective, if I may say it that way. I see also in the Netherlands that co-creating with partners, that's difficult for lots of people. If there's a problem, it's naturally we try to solve with people who we know, who have the same background, have the same culture. Do you know what I mean? So what's different about getting out of your own bubble? If
I seem to remember in history something called the Dutch East India Company.
Yes.
You didn't always do things only with Dutch people. You might have not done them very nicely, but
You're kidding.
you thought I wouldn't know this.
No problem.
So
I'm talking nowadays. At this moment.
you Dutch young man, you are the one you're talking about. I think that is just a side effect of success, right? In the sense that,
In what way?
what I mean to say is, as a society, when we are able, so one of the beautiful things about Europe in the last 40 years or whatever, we have a system that seems to work for everybody for the most part, right? Putin aside. But what I'm trying to say is we built, Europe has built a society where education is widely available. A certain amount of basic income is widely available for everybody. And there is a lot more choice in the kinds of careers, kinds of things that you can do. So what happens is on the one hand, we are all people who need community. but we also really love freedom and independence and and we can afford to do that. I can just afford to do whatever the heck I want without having to, ask people. Like I'm teaching people to ask again, and that's very difficult. I think it's part of that.
And what's so difficult about it then? Because in my opinion, if I want to know something, I ask someone.
Oh, then are you Dutch?
Yes.
We need to test his DNA. No, but you're saying that people find it difficult, right?
Yes.
So the ones who don't find it difficult, we are not worried about. We're only worried about the people who find it difficult, right? And all I'm trying to say is there is nothing natural or cultural about it. That's what I'm trying to say. It is this circumstance and what choices you have available. Right? This is why I say if they really get into trouble or if they really need it, they will ask too. But we can also teach this as a technique. I literally teach the effectual ask as a technique, and I tell them it's like just build your ask missile. Even if you're Bill Gates' son and you don't need to go ask money from anybody, just ask anyway. It's a good skill to have, and then you can always choose not to use it. And here is the beautiful thing. Giving is a way of asking too.
Of course.
Right? So if you're uncomfortable asking, ask on behalf of somebody else, right? And build your muscle that way. So in fact, the latest book that is with the publisher is called The Effectual Ask. So that's why I can talk about this till midnight. So you need to ask the next question. But people just, if you can do it by yourself, we all value independence, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's something to think about when I drive home this evening.
So you're just being very humble. I know you know better than that.
You also talked this morning about, in your own words, have your vision, but do the doable today.
Yes.
I think that's logical.
Yeah. So when I have...
But why did you mention it so in this way?
Because of just experience with students, right? And I do have a lot of very passionate, visionary students. And I tell them that it's, first of all, don't have a very narrow view of the vision. That either it has to be this way or not at all, right? So there are ways to do vision where it doesn't have to be either or. So the issue would be, it's not a question of giving up on your vision if you're just working with somebody who wants something else to do with you. You can still, this is a way for you to continue to do and get towards your vision. So it's a different kind of persistence, if you will. At least consider it. But the really difficult thing is what I call wholesale vision, right? So the idea is not only that I want to see the world be more sustainable, or I want everybody to enjoy hip hop music, or whatever that vision of the world is. I'm also unnecessarily committing myself on how to achieve that vision. And there's always about I am the leader, I'm the visionary, everybody else has to follow my vision. So instead I say, great, okay, this is what you want to do. What is it that you can actually do tomorrow to achieve that? And it just changes, it doesn't change their vision, but it it opens up multiple pathways towards the vision, right? So the doable, otherwise you're just going to chase a vision without having, 10 years pass and then, nothing actually happens. So I ask them, what is it that you can live with, that you can do tomorrow to actually get profitable or to actually make a difference?
And can you give some answers if you ask people, students, or neither in our students or entrepreneurs, what are the answers? Because for most of people, it's a difficult question.
Yes. So I literally do the Socratic method. So I tell them, imagine the world in which this vision is coming true, right? What would that look like? How many employees will it take? How many customers will it take? How much grant funding will it take? Or how many donors would have signed on? So I asked them to go even deeper into the vision, but now give me details. And then once they give the detailed vision of what will your day look like? Let's literally role play. You are the visionary boss. You're walking in, and I am your chief of staff. Okay, and I'm bringing to you, and then I'll bring them little questions, little decisions, and they start realizing that they can't do it on their own, right? And I would push them back a little bit, like, what do I need you for? So just to get them to see that there is a dependence. Good leadership is about setting up channels of dependence, getting people who are better than you, smarter than you, and you are actually dependent on them.
That's
Right?
leadership.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's not about that they are all dependent on you, right? So just to get, once you get to the details and live the life of their will, they very quickly see the role of others. And then I say, okay, given that you know that, what are two people that you might want to bring on board? And why would those two people want to work with you? And usually their vision of who they want to work with also is sort of another visionary. So I will say, how would you convince them? And I will play the role. I've also asked the other students. So I literally do this in class. I ask other students to play the role because all the students they're all like ardent students. They have good career options. They're like, how do you convince somebody who has got a fantastic job in Google to come build your technology for you because you are not a technologist? And once you have those conversations, things shift a little bit on how to do it. And then I give them examples, case studies of actual visionary entrepreneurs who we see as visionary today, and we say, what did they actually do to get there? So those are the kinds of things I do pedagogically.
It's very concrete.
Yeah, the more you get into the trenches, everybody gets real.
Okay.
We have room for two more questions here, Osman.
I already asked the question, so you go first.
Okay, thank you. Very kind. I was just wondering, does that bring about a change in attitude with your students? So once you pose these kind of questions, in the end, are your students finally showing a different attitude towards entrepreneurship in general?
So I would say for the most part, yes, with some confidence. And I'll tell you what my measurement is. It's really not whether they start a company or whether they are successful or anything like that. And the kind of response I'm looking for from them is really this. And we built the entire textbook around that. So everywhere you go, people, if they're taking an entrepreneurship course, right, already they have some aspiration or something. And usually they'll say, I want to be an entrepreneur, and they will say things like, I don't have an idea. And what they mean is, I don't have a great, innovative, changing the world kind of idea. Or they'll say, I don't have money or other resources. I don't have time. I have kids or whatever. So I don't have money is another one. And the third one they say is, I am afraid to fail. And then there are some visionary entrepreneurs who say, I really am passionate about it, but I don't know what to do. Right? So I tell them, all I'm trying to do is I'm going to try and take away all your reasons. And then you can choose never to start a company or never to do anything entrepreneurial. I will still love you, right? So the idea is you cannot say by the end of the course, you can no longer say that I don't have an idea, I don't have resources, I am afraid to fail, and I don't know what to do. That's all I aim to do in my classes. And not only immediately, but years later, I will get email. People will say, you have left me no place to hide. And by the way, I end the class by saying, if you think you actually want to be an entrepreneur, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, you think you can start a venture, and you're not doing it for any of these 4 reasons, my ugly shadow should haunt you. And so I get this, I finally am in a situation where I can start a venture, and I was hesitating, and I talked to my spouse, and then I remembered your ugly shadow. I can email like that. So those are my metrics of success for myself as a teacher.
Can you do something with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where did your, a bit of a personal question, but where did your personal passion come from in terms of entrepreneurial teaching?
That's a good one.
What sparked you?
Yeah, so life circumstances, and I'm happy to share that. I'm the 3rd daughter in a family of 3 daughters and a kid brother. I was a disappointment from day one because my parents were really hoping to get a boy, and then I was born. I grew up lower middle class in India. My parents never went to college, and so the dream for all of us, my two sisters and myself, and my parents, was to be able to send my brother to college. And we don't have free education, so we had to pay for it, and it's like really difficult to pay. So, but then I got lucky in another way, that my two sisters, there's a big age gap between my two sisters and me. So I saw what happened to them when they finished high school and they were married off. And then, I woke up and I realized I don't want that, right? I don't know what I want in life. I don't want that. So I was like, I want to go to college. And people were like, we can't have you competing with your brother to go to college. So and you are blessed, my parents would say, with, I ace every exam, and part of it is also this wanting to go to college. And so you have to find a scholarship. So I was looking for a scholarship and a full college, because my father was like, it has to be full college tuition because we can't afford to pay a dime. And so there was only a couple of really big scholarships that were available at that time. And I'm 300 years old, so I'm talking about decades ago. So one of them was a scholarship by the Tata Foundation. And it's very, very tough. There are 10,000 people who apply for one scholarship. It's just really hard. And I am just freaking fortunate, won the DNA lottery, won the lottery in the ladder of siblings, whatever it is. But I applied for this, and they had 7 rounds of different competitions that you had to win to get the scholarship. But one of the rounds, they made us read the biography of the founder of the Tata companies, Jamshedji Tata, and asked us to write a 1,000-word essay on his life. And that was for me the conversion experience. Till then, I had not realized that there is something called business, and that people, everything I see or somebody actually makes it. I did not know anything about economics. I did not know anything about where, things came from. But that book was a conversion experience. And so I said, if I get the scholarship, that is what I want to do. I want to be an entrepreneur. Without understanding what that word was, I don't think the word was even entrepreneur. I think in India we call them like promoters, right? That's what I think it was called a promoter or something like that. Anyway, I did win the scholarship, and from day one in college, I just want to start a company. And of course, they don't teach you anything about starting a company. This is like decades ago in India. They're teaching us Keynes, right? General theory of employment. And, we're just studying strange stuff is the way, and accounting, which I hated, which I grew to love as an entrepreneur eventually. But college, they don't teach you anything. So all I want to do is to start a company. And so by the time I finished college, I knew how to start something. And this is the additional information may not need. But my first venture was a South Indian vegetarian restaurant. When I say venture, that's an exaggeration, but still in Baden-Baden in Germany. But my entire trajectory, even the possibility of college, was tied to entrepreneurship already before I even came into my first year in that program.
Thank you.
So, what a great story. So, we've got room for 1 or 2 questions. No. Was this the last one, Johan? I have one thing. 2.
You're wasting more time. Just ask the question. We'll ask for permission later. Ask.
I never ask for permission. I'm doing.
We'll ask for forgiveness. Yeah.
You told us earlier, and this language, I think it's nice language, good language, to dreams we cannot often imagine. Tell us something more about it, because it's great language.
But they're not mine. I showed you the video. It's Jackie Novogratz who said it. Maybe our dreams were too small, she said. So I just said that, the dreams that we do not dream are where probably the big solutions to big problems lie. that I got from Jackie Novogratz's.
So we have to dream bigger with each other.
No, I'm saying we have to act on our stupid little dreams today.
Okay.
And then that leads to a dream that we never, if we wait for the big dream or we dream too big, we are in trouble.
So make
I'm
it
saying,
small.
yeah.
Make it small.
And make it small, but have the humility to know that the dreams that you do not even have today are where the world is going to come from, right? The new world. That's what Jackie was saying. That they didn't dream that this would happen in Rwanda, right? The women, that a young woman within 30 years would lead the entire Federal Reserve of that country, and that there would be more women parliamentarians than anywhere else in the world. Nobody dreamed that, not even the women who got the help. So that's all I was trying to say. And that was just a derivative from Novogratz.
One last question for you, Saras. There are people here, audience from all kinds of countries, all over the world. It's nearly the end of the year. Christmas is coming, the new year, 2026. What do you wish all the people here who are in the audience? What's your wish for them?
My wish is always, follow your bliss, right? But include the whole world in your bliss in ways that you actually can act on. That would be my wish, always.
May I have a big applause for Saras Sarasvathy.